operations like dual presentations on radio. And we want to just find out more about dual presentations, why dual presentation, and how best can we execute a good dual presentation. Well, yes, it's true that I've had a couple of dual presentations that I've been part of. And to mind comes the 9212 connection with Glenda Takachicha that was on Power FM. I did a dual presentation with Dr. Zoba on the breakfast show during our stint in Gweru. I also did a breakfast show with Tendai Chakanyuka. I then went on to do a dual presentation. Well, not a dual presentation. We were actually three of us. When I introduced the 326 Express, it was myself, Patsani, and Aura. And when Aura left, it was myself uh, together with Grace and Patsani. So the essence of a dual presentation is really a response to how people consume information now, and specifically we're talking about radio, how people consume radio today. When we were listening to radio as young people, it was one presenter in studio, and basically, for lack of a better expression, we would take what they say. But now, because of information technology and people being more woke, as the young people say, people want interaction. People also want to respond to what they get on radio or what they get on the internet, television, and even newspaper. You see, they've got comment sections because people now consume with wanting to be part of the discussions. And so, my thinking is that dual presentation were introduced because people are more interactive now and people question a lot of things. People want to participate more than we used to do back then when we didn't have the platforms to respond or to answer to some of the things that would get on our radios. So the first thing that I'm going to tell you is I'm going to try and break it down because I always want people to remember what I say. Going to try and break it down once again with the letter C. Yeah, I'm going to use the letter C to try and make you remember what I feel about dual presentations. And so the first C that I'm going to give you, in my opinion, is that dual presentations give color to the presentation on radio. So black, white, you'll have someone who's black, you have someone who's white, not in terms of race, but somebody who's standing for a certain opinion and the other one is standing for the other. And you know that black and white just gives contrast. It just gives a balance of some sort. um you look at the hard and soft, you look at, good cop bad cop kind of thing. It gives the diversity of ideas when you have two people in studio, one standing for this idea and the other one standing for this idea. At times they do agree on certain things, but again it always gives this color when it's two people exchanging ideas and disagreeing or agreeing. So that's the first C. The how best do you come up with a good dual presentation is, I feel that there always has to be connection. Remember what we're trying to do as radio presenters, we're trying to connect with our audiences, our listeners. But the two people in studio have to have some sort of connection as well. And how do they build on this? They have to have chemistry, which is the next C. They build on this chemistry. Now if it's male and female, it has always had problems where people think two people are dating, but it's not always the case that people are dating. Well, some might, but uh they always have to spend a lot of time together to understand the highs, the lows, the moods, and how the other person thinks. So this is how you build the chemistry, the connection. In order for you to connect with the audiences, you yourselves in studio need to have some sort of connection. You always need to collaborate, which is the next C. Collaboration means maybe even from remotely. If they're at their house, they're you at your house, you need to collaborate and say, what are we talking about next week? What are we talking about tomorrow? You put a script together, you put concepts together, and that's part of collaboration. There always has to be a lot of compromise because remember, it's like marriage where we're trying to put two people from different backgrounds together, but they need to come up with something that people can follow and people can understand. So, a lot of compromise on your ideas, on some of your likes, and sometimes you're told to come out of character on the things that you believe in. Good radio is about concepts, so you also need to meet, and the next C is conceptualization of ideas. So you need to come up with concepts, and if they're going to work, the two of you need to be in agreement. So a lot of conceptualization needs to happen when you're doing your presentations. Um, you need to complement each other. It doesn't help for you to be on air as a dual presentation, as a team, as a pair, and you don't complement each other. And by compliment, I'm not talking about statements to say, "Yeah, well done." I'm talking about, if this person is going to take it to 50%, you also need to carry the other 50%. Complement each other, work together. Yeah. And then it also takes a lot of covering for each other. You can't be against your partner, you can't be against your wife or your husband. You need to cover where they fail. Sometimes this even happens on air, where they get stuck. You need to cover for your partner. Sometimes even when we're talking about management, sometimes they can't make it on time, sometimes they fail, sometimes they have a weakness. It's your job as the other half to cover for your partner. You need to create together. Remember, this is all about creativity. You need to create together those ideas, those statements that are going to be catchy. You need to create together. That's the other C. Sometimes we'll even intentionally ask you to clash on air. Yeah. If we want to really come out with a debate, we ask you to clash on air. And sometimes you will clash unintentionally. You will clash during the creation of your show, during your meetings, and sometimes, unfortunately, on air. But sometimes these clashes actually come out superb when you clash on air. So you also need to prepare for that. Role playing is another thing that you need to understand. You need to do a lot of role playing. Who does what when, and why do they do it? You need to sit down and define roles. People need to understand what their role is in. Some will speak more than the other, some will just come and be that disruption.